Does Star Fox for the Super Nintendo hold up today? Star Fox was the first Nintendo game to use polygon graphics. At the time, 3D dimensional polygon models weren't common in console games, and the Super Nintendo couldn't handle it. So Nintendo had to create a whole new graphics chip just for Star Fox. The Super FX graphics chip. Working with Argonaut software, Nintendo developed this chip in the early years of the NES and Super Nintendo. They actually made a prototype for the NES and ported it over to the Super Nintendo. But that still wasn't good enough, so programmer Jez San, I hope I'm saying your name right, told Nintendo that if their graphics were going to get any better, they needed to custom build a graphics chip. Nintendo agreed, and San got working on the Super FX chip. It was the first 3D graphics accelerator in a consumer product. And the Super FX chip was so much more powerful than the Super Nintendo that the dev team actually joked the Super Nintendo was just a box that held the chip. So Star Fox was a pioneer in graphics. It was groundbreaking. But how was the actual game? Well, the flying controls are stiff and slow to respond, and my thumb started getting a cramp because I was spamming the attack button. Doesn't help that lots of the enemies on screen are small and hard to hit. And so many of the levels are in first person, which makes dodging nearly impossible, because you can't really tell where your ship is. And that was on easy. The first Star Fox game I ever played was 64, and I got spoiled by all the revolutionary upgrades like a targeting reticle. Yeah, the SNES has one in the first person levels, but not in the third person levels. And because you're shooting at whatever's in front of you, if you're flying straight, your ship actually blocks the target you're trying to hit. And as groundbreaking as the graphics might be, it can still be pretty hard to tell when you're going to hit something. And this game actually has ship damage. If your wings get hit too much, they break off, and it can actually lower the amount of damage. You can get power-ups that let you fire 2 lasers instead of 1, but if you lose a wing, then you lose your 2 lasers. At least you're not fighting alone. Sort of. On every mission, you have 3 wingmen, but their main job is complaining and getting in your way. At scripted parts in each level, they'll fly directly in front of you because they're being chased by some enemy, and only you can save the day. But figuring out which gray polygons are your teammate and which gray polygons are the enemy in the middle of a firefight can be a little confusing. Your wingmen don't even really do anything. Sometimes they'll take hot shots at the enemies, but they're not helpful. Frankly, I found things a lot calmer when they were all dead. At least I got some peace and quiet. And as I said before, I played the game on easy. The game has an easy, medium, and hard mode, and they're distinguished by being able to take different paths through the game. And coming from Star Fox 64, I assumed you started on one path and then there were special things you could do throughout the level to jump to different paths. But no, after the first level, you just pick the path you want. The middle is easy, top is medium, and bottom is hard. Not that the game actually tells you that, and easy is in the middle. Why would easy be in the middle? Shouldn't medium be in the middle? But whatever, I stuck to easy. I tried medium and hard and decided it just wasn't worth it for what they were doing to my blood pressure. Higher difficulty meant more enemies on the screen and the frame rate was chugging on easy mode, which is bad for an on-the-rail shooter that requires reflex and timing to survive. There were some actual highlights though, like the boss fight at the end of the level. The boss fights are pretty good even if they boil down to shoot the glowing red weak spot. They've got some interesting designs, and I really like one that you fight in the middle of a spinning room in the middle of a ship. You have to take out these lasers that are placed all around the walls while you're spinning around, and then take out the core of the ship. But where does that all leave Star Fox for the Super Nintendo? Star Fox is considered one of the greatest and most influential games of all time. It pioneered 3D rail shooters on home consoles. It popularized the use of the Super FX chip, and it established Star Fox as a flagship Nintendo franchise. The game was a demonstration of cutting-edge graphics, it won several awards, and high scores across the board. It pioneered 3D video game technology and was the beginning of a legendary series. And it absolutely does not stand the test of time. Controls are clunky, the frame rate drags. The graphics made a lot of the game a confusing mess, and you're better off playing the N64 version. It's a reimagining of this game with a ton of quality of life improvements, runs on a system that can actually handle the gameplay, and is just a superior game in every way. If you've never played either of these games, skip the Super Nintendo one and play the one for Nintendo 64. And if you love the one for the Nintendo 64, play this one for the history, I guess. See you next time.